Namaste and welcome to Delhi. I'm Devina and this is Work Life India on the BBC, the show that looks at all things to do with money, the work we do, and the lives we lead. Are you struggling to find your space in the regular Joe job market? And how about opting for an offbeat career instead? Is it worth the risk? A World Economic Forum report estimates 75 million current job roles may be displaced in the next 3 years because of the shift in technology. But there are some who are ahead of the curve. They've chosen a path less traveled for a booming career. My three guests have shown that there is money in offbeat jobs. We talk about their experiences. We have with us Zara Gonzalez, who is a professional gamer. Welcome, Zara.
So nice to be here.
And we have Vidit, who is the co-founder of a firm, Lucidius, which is into cybersecurity, but he calls himself an ethical hacker. Welcome, Vidit.
Thank you.
And we also have Vineet. Vineet, what do you do?
Nom 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 nom.
Whoa, that's beatboxing. That's pretty cool. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
And let's start with you, Zara, then. There is something that you do which is called shoutcasting as well. What is that?
It's very similar to a lot of traditional sports that called commentating. And I think in India, the most famous would be cricket. So I work basically as a commentator for a lot of video games out there.
So this is, just do a shoutcasting sample for us here.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode on the BBC News. And joining me on the desk, of course, I have three amazing panelists, and it's so nice to have you all here. We also have a roaring crowd out there looking to see who these pro players are. Yeah.
You do it better than me, let me give you that. But with it, you define yourself as an ethical hacker. Now, what is it that defines an ethical hacker?
The ethics mainly, it's more like a boundary that you draw for yourself wherein you know something that you do is going to do harm. And you always stay at a side wherein you intend to do good and you always do good.
And you started off quite early in ninth grade. We'll talk about that, but let me go first now to Vineet. Vineet, lovely to have you here. We just heard the beatboxing that you did.
Right.
But what got you started? What got you thinking about this career?
Like the madam here, I used to be a little bit of a gamer back in the day.
Really?
But yeah, it got the best of me and it got a little too addictive. And this was back in 2005 to 2006, 2007-ish. So I sort of got out of gaming and I got into event management. I started working with event managers. That's when I got on the mic for the first time as an MC. And after being an MC for about approximately a year, I was also struggling to be a musician at the same time. So beatboxing sort of found me. And it was the midpoint between being a MC and a musician. So it was sort of the best of two worlds.
But Zara, are you still in the category that Vineet just described, addicted to games? Did this start quite early with you?
Oh, definitely. I think it started when I was very, very young. But I think it caught on when I was in 11th standard. Because you cross the time when, you finished your board exams, you're ready to figure out what you want to do in life. And I think that is when it just hit me that I want to just keep playing this game and get better at it. And that's how my career actually just took a change. I think I never wanted to leave it. I think that was the difference.
Yeah, and she is making hell out of her money, guys. If anybody has any doubt, she is a true blue professional gamer and earning. And with it, we've seen that a lot of times there is this certain perception about hackers. Everybody's very scared. I mean, what do you do? And there is a sudden scare in the room. Everybody's taking care of their phones, their laptops. Your story is quite interesting because your mother actually had that perception as well when you said, I want to have my first computer.
Yes, so it goes back when I was in 9th standard, and we were just recently introduced computers as a subject in our school. It was a big deal for us to have a subject as computer in school as well. So I went to my dad and I said I want a computer. Dad said yes because I gave him a reason, and before he could complete his sentence, my mom said no, up straight. And when I went to her and asked her the reason why it's no, she said, you'll be a hacker.
Little did she know she was predicting the future, but ethical hacker.
So next morning I went to Cyber Cafe and that's what I searched. What is a hacker? How to be a hacker? Good that I was pretty much connected.
What's common with all of you? Because all of you are self-taught
Yeah.
in the profession that you are in at the moment. With you, it started with chat rooms online, and you got
Yeah.
mentorship from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
How did it start with you, Vineet?
Well, it was a lot of, let's say, self-practice, because back in the day I didn't have access to a lot of media that taught you how to beatbox, or more like I don't think I was looking for it. So it was me going early to events, picking up the microphone, and I was just making stupid sounds.
So what's the first sound that you started with?
I used to do a lot of stupid sounds. For example, I used to just go something as simple as that. On the microphone, it sounds very different. And then you move the mic away, it sounds different. You move the mic closer, it sounds different. So I was sort of experimenting, and I ended up with something that sounded like a beatbox.
And did people like it instantly?
People found it interesting until I found the right combination of how to do things and what to do, and then people liked it.
And what about you, Zara? So when you started gaming, you shifted cities, and you were really serious that you have to pursue this as a profession. But other people were really not aware that who you are, and you adopted another name for it.
Yeah, actually, when it all began, it was very difficult because you become from somebody who wants to just sit at home and play games to somebody who wants to make it a career. And a lot of people tell me that, everybody wants to be passionate, but it's not that easy. You got to do a lot of sacrifices. It's blood and sweat, like they say. So I had to go ahead and leave my house, shift off to Bangalore, and see what the opportunities are over there. And once you're there, also, there's nothing like you go online and type, I want a job in gaming. You're only going to get a game tester job even till today.
Game tester, but not a professional
but not
gamer.
a professional gamer or nothing around it. So I decided that I wanted to make it a career, and no matter what it took. So I went from casting to going ahead and analyzing them, to going ahead and talking to brands and hardware companies and figuring out what is the element that can make this a good revenue model for me, to make me money. And I, at the end, realized that you got to do a lot of multiple things. Like even a cricketer, he's not just the person on the field. He's a person who brands companies. He's
Right.
a person who has a very good influence on his fans. He's the one who people listen to. So I believe that if I could do all those elements together, I could make a career out of it. And by God's grace, I think I was just looking the right way.
But did
at
they
the right
accept
time.
you instantly? And that's what my question to you is with it. Because did they accept you instantly that I want to be an ethical hacker? You started getting this mentorship from global chat rooms. And what was the point when you figured out, okay, this is hacking and perhaps this is wrong and this is what I should do?
Yeah, so obviously acceptance was a bit of a challenge. When what really happens is that you have people around you who basically go into the more streamlined jobs or streamlined career paths, and you go to your parents or somewhere in society and say that, hey, I want to be in security, and the only security that rings into their head is like security guards standing outside an ATM room. And I remember it, like my grandmom, she said that Vidit, you are educated. Why did you become a security guard? Like, somehow.
And you actually introduced yourself as a security professional
Yes.
and not as an ethical hacker
Yes.
for a long time. Vinny, did you also face a similar sort of social stigma? What was your challenge?
So I think one of the biggest challenges a lot of people getting into alternative fields face is the fact that their folks, their parents at home, don't support them. And I think this is one of the reasons is that your parents want you all to do really well in life. And I think that's what they really want out of their kid. And so money come in consistently, and when they see you're taking care of yourself, I think their attitude slowly starts to change. And I think that's something that all of us in our alternative professions need to look at very seriously. We need to stop making it look like fun, because it is fun, definitely, but there is the serious side to it. And,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And Zara, for you, the serious side is the longest that you sat in a game is like 33 hours.
Yes. And it was, I think, one of my favorite nights. It was New Year's night. And I had this plan that I'm going to play all through 31st and 1st and welcome the New Year with a game. And we had this recent meme that came out that eat, sleep, and game. And I was like, hey, that kind of makes sense. I think I can do that for the New Year's and finish it off. So I think, agreeing with Vineet on this one, of course, that your parents will not accept it at the very beginning because they haven't seen the future. They don't know what the future looks like. They're going to always look at a career choice which is safer for you. And I think after a certain point of time, you kind of figure out that I don't know whether it's a safe future, but I think if I build it right, if I build it correct, I think it could
when we used to deliver this 2 days of session on ethical hacking and stuff like that. We still do that with a pride, and we really love doing the training.
Right.
But that was early days of ours. Now we are more into corporate securities, and our day in day out job is to ensure that our customers stay secure. So it was early days. I believe the path is laid now, and it was a problem wherein hacking was always seen as a bad thing, and ethical hacking was never a field which was easily accepted. Now it's more, the way I say it, the path is carved, and it's relatively easily accepted by parents and everyone.
Absolutely. So the acceptance is there slowly and steadily. You look at the gaming industry, it's $100 billion gaming industry.
Yeah.
You have around 3 billion gamers, and cybersecurity industry is one of the most promising industry as well. And Vineet, what you are doing also is something which has happened in 1980s in the US.
Yep.
You had Razel, who is considered to be godfather of beatboxing, who said that it has actually helped me pay for my kids' school and education.
Yeah.
Doesn't pay so much. When you started, what was the toughest thing that you faced when you were pitching for a commercial gig?
Well, so slightly going off track, one of the things I struggled with back then is something I'm still struggling with, and that's getting payments out of clients.
Really?
Yeah. So, I'm guessing you all suffer from the same
That should
thing.
be with everyone.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
freelancers, this is one of the biggest issues. Very specifically in India, we're all struggling to make ends meet because we do our work, but at the end of the day, we're running behind clients to get the money out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that I still struggle with. But back in the day, educating people onto what beatboxing was, I think was the most crucial thing. But right now, with media booming, you can access everything on your phone. Knowing what beatboxing is, let's say 70% of the audience already knows.
And Zara, when you started off, what was the most popular myth that you had to bust for people?
Oh, the most amazing one over here. I don't think she's a girl. I don't think she's a great gamer.
Really?
I think she's just come in and changed the audio where you become a little softer on the mic, and that's how she's trying to be a girl. So I think that was the difficulty I faced, not because they didn't think I was a girl, because I'm like, why do people think like that? Is it not a thing for women to play? And I think that was a stigma that I needed to change. I needed to make sure that there is a girl out there. She definitely can be good at a game, and she can do a lot more in that field. And it's a personal thing, but I believe that it's very important for men and women both to understand that anybody can do anything.
Absolutely.
Right?
And we are moving to a place where there's a balance in careers, that both men and women are equal participant there. But with it, you had a hard time as well, balancing and keeping the temptation and staying away from it. And there was a point of time where you actually went ahead and were very, very tempted to jump to the other side.
So I'm sure, in my field, a lot of guys have gone through that, and that's one moment that really defines you. Wherein you hit that last button, and there's no coming back ever. So I would say I was lucky enough to be mentored by right people, to be raised by amazing parents, to know what's the difference between good and bad, right and wrong.
And somebody dealing with a dilemma at that point of time, what would you advise them?
Just know your balance, where you are going to. Know that they should be coming back home. Obviously, the life is long ahead, and you should be doing wisely. You should be doing things carefully.
And Vineet, when you started off beatboxing, and there was a time when you had to do 100 pitch to get a commercial gig, was there a point of time when you thought, okay, this is perhaps not for me, I should just let it go?
Not exactly, because I didn't have anything to lose, and I was sort of in a place where I knew this was going to happen for me, because there were no other beatboxers making a living out of beatboxing in India, and I sort of saw that gap, and I knew that I wanted to be the first person to take it. And so the answer is no. And if you don't mind, so the initial question to her about what are those little confusions that people have in the beginning, one of the main confusions was that you needed talent to actually beatbox. And we were talking about this earlier. I think you need more practice rather than talent. If you all want to do a quick tester, that's a quick sound.
Okay.
The first sound is just...
Okay.
Can you... Yes?
We're done.
Everyone can do that?
Yeah.
Can you say two?
Two.
Now when you say two, forget you're saying two, just go... Right? And
All right, but how much time? So this is interesting, because you said it just requires practice.
Yeah.
How much time did you put into this practice sessions, and which was the sound that took you longest?
and putting that in the beat. So that was really difficult in the beginning. So learning how to sort of reuse your voice,
Right.
and it's forgetting patterns of speech and relearning how to use your throat, your mouth, and all of that. So.
And so, what are the risks in your profession also, Zara? Because as Vineet has said, that it takes a lot of time to practice something and to get perfect at it. You use another shadow name, which is Angela.
Yeah.
And is that by a conscious decision? Is Angela very different from Zara?
I think so. Because I think about till 2 years back, a lot of people who knew me didn't know me as Zara Gonzalez. It was always, yeah, I know Angela, but the minute you say Zara, they would think twice that who is this girl? And I think that's the reason I've always hidden behind that name, because when you're on camera and you're talking about or you're playing your game, you're in that character. So it's very similar to me playing a game. And I believe that if you're constantly in that character, it becomes a side part of you and actually becomes a set part of you. And I think that's a struggle I had at the very beginning too, because I was like, this is not really me, but I'm figuring it out. But over time, I think it requires a lot of practice. And like you mentioned, it's not only about talent. When you hit it on the mark, I don't believe a lot of people who call this passion and talent. It's just basically consistency, persistence, and a lot of hard work. And I think if you have these three things going on for you, anything can become a talent for you.
Absolutely. So, with it, how many hours do you spend when you are trying to crack a code, and is there money which to be earned from it? Because there have been bug bounty programs that are
Yes.
run by different companies where you try and hunt for a hidden bug and they pay you for it.
Yes.
Is that often the case?
So yes, bug bounty is a good platform now. It has really opened up a new segments for the people who are really getting into this space. So you could be a school guy or a college student back in and you might be doing assessments or practicing from your garage, and yes, you could report a vulnerability to a corporate saying that, hey, this was the loophole. This is how I found it. This is how you can reproduce it, and this is what you should do to patch it. And if you don't, that's like that's the kind of business impact you may have. And the great part with bug bounty and so-called responsible disclosures being so accepted nowadays, the way is relatively smoother for people now.
And is there also a health risk that comes with what you guys are doing? Because both of you are actually in front of the screen for the longest time. I think the average is like 20 hours a day. And is there a health risk that comes with it? Do you see yourself
Definitely.
different, for example, when you're interacting with people? Is there a different way in which you adapt to the real life after coming from a gaming zone?
No, I don't think that much of interaction that bothers me. Is just that in general, because you're always by yourself, it's very difficult to again go out there and be with a lot of other people. I think the crowds are something that get to me a little bit, but otherwise I don't think so. It affects me so much socially. But yeah, when you're always on a call and just talking with people, you forget how it is like to go do your hair and look really nice and presentable. So I think that's a very big difference. I noticed.
You look very presentable, let me tell you that. But what is your reaction to this with it? Because do you feel that I'm out of the virtual reality now, and when your wife and your kid they are with you, do you still
Yeah.
think that I should be perhaps with the machines because they're faster in answering my question?
Well, see, what really happens is that you get so used to it. Your systems, your cyberspace, you get so comfortable in. So sometimes it really gives you discomfort coming out and talking to normal people and
Said normal.
Yeah, I was about to say that normal people.
Yeah, normal
You're very
people,
normal.
So and just find your way around them, because see, the great part about cyberspace or digital spaces, that it's all zeros and ones. It's all logical. It lacks human touch for sure. It lacks emotions for sure. But zeros and ones are faster. Let's be real, right?
We'll get a machine next time to interact. But what about you, Vineet? I mean, is there a flip side or a dark side to what you do?
Well, I think the fact that we barely get to sleep when we do events, and I guess this
Yeah.
is something with you. So acidity issues, number one. As you get older, all these things are going to kick in.
And that's where I want to ask my next question. Do you see yourself doing the same career, following the same career in the next 10 years? Because let's start with you, Zara. There are so many games that are coming in. How do you keep yourself updated? And is there a fear I might be outdated? Somebody might outrun my record?
No, I definitely feel 10 years from now, I would still be doing gaming, maybe on a more higher level, but I would still be doing
of young people in my team, and I learn from them, right? So look, there are things that I have learned so far, and there are things that I have found my way with, and you need to be open enough to learn from your colleagues, from your team, the young generation.
Right.
When the way technology is changing,
But
if you
what
don't,
about
there's a problem.
beatboxing? Because the way you do beatboxing, Vineet, is the old, the traditional way. Now there are techno sounds and everything. Is there a fear that I should have a backup plan?
Oh, well, for me, so I'm not going to say beatboxing is going to be consistent. The entertaining side of things is going to be consistent. The music side of things is going to be consistent. Beatboxing is going to be one part of that. So like she said, we're going to be doing it on different levels. And I think it's important for us to constantly move away from what we're currently doing, because it gives us a gap. It gives a gap for the other newcomers to enter the industry into that gap.
So all of you are actually talking about newcomers. So let's get to that. Now, people who are watching you or listening you and want to get into your careers, what are your top tips?
I think first of all, make sure you want to do it. And the best way to find out if you really want to do something is do it for a month. And on the first of the next month, if you still get up and like, I want to do it, I really want to do it, then go ahead and do it. But if you have something where you're like, oh, my neck is going to pain now if I start doing this, don't do it.
All right.
Because it's not going to work out.
And Vidit, what are the pitfalls that youngsters should watch out for, especially in
Sort of similar to what Zara said, but at the same time, you should be extremely passionate about what you are doing, and you should be consistent about what you are doing. And at the same time, look, there are a lot of horizontals in cybersecurity. You should pick one and do it very properly. Right?
And since there are no institutes which are teaching, a very few institutes which are teaching this, it gets even more difficult for them. But would you advise them to take global chat rooms, mentors?
So now, nowadays it's relatively easier as well. So look, there are a lot of training centers nowadays. We have one of them. In fact, just to add up, not to put it other way around, but we are running a 1 year of post-graduation diploma at Delhi University.
And that could be something that could be taken up, and that's a degree always helps.
Yeah, it's and cybersecurity.
Vineet, what are your advice to somebody who wants to take up beatboxing?
I would say with any profession, know that if you're good or not, because some people really believe that they're good, but they're actually not, and they need a lot more practice, number one. Number two, it's very easy these days to create a profile for yourself, and this can be done overnight. Put stuff out on Instagram, put stuff out.
Use
Facebook,
the social media
all
for your
forms of
reference.
Social media, and build a profile for yourself and put it out there. If you're good, people will notice you. If you're not, you need to change.
All right. With that, we wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us, all of you. Almost 133 million new job roles are expected to be created in the next 3 years. The question is if you're ready to move away from the traditional path to the new age careers. Think about